Welcome to WikiAfrica Hour, where Africa's Wikimedians talk to, learn from, and discuss with each other topics they choose. Each session is curated by African Wikimedians to expand Africa's open movement. Today's host is Cecilus Obanyaya.
Hello, friends of the Open Movement. I'm very delighted to welcome you all to episode 14 of WikiAfrica Hour, titled WikiGovernance on Board. The Wikimedia Foundation, the NGO that powers Wikipedia and its sister projects, has an upcoming 2022 Board of Trustees election coming. The Board of Trustees consists of 16 trustees. One seat is reserved for the founder, Jimmy Wales. 7 seats are appointed by the board for specific expertise and are selected in a process that is guided by the Wikimedia Foundation Board Governance Committee. And further, 8 seats are opened up to members for the wider Wikimedia community through the Wikimedia Foundation Board elections process. The current election process focuses on this last aspect, the community seats. 6 out of 8 community seats became vacant as of 2021. 4 were filled in 2021. This year's upcoming election is aimed at filling the remaining 2 community seats on the Board of Trustees. The process entails 3 stages. Firstly, there is a self-nomination period, and then there is a pre-selection by Wikimedia affiliates of the final candidates from the self-nominated group. And finally, the voting is opened to community members for the last batch of candidates to be selected. I'm Cecilus Obanyaya, your host. A total of 12 persons submitted their candidacy or expression of interest, as you might have it, for the upcoming 2022 Wikimedia Foundation Board of Trustees election. Among these 12 candidates, 6 have been pre-selected by the Wikimedia affiliates, and it's my honor to present to you these top 6. There is Tobechukwu Precious Friday from Nigeria. Tobechukwu Precious Friday has been involved in the global wiki community since 2017. She is a co-founder and program coordinator of Igbo Wikimedians user group. She is the outreach coordinator of Wiki Mentor Africa program and a member of Wiki Loves Women focus group. She as well is a Wikimedian in residence at Moleskine Foundation, where she works under the WikiAfrica education project. There is Michał Buczyński, who is from Poland. Michał Buczyński is an economist and a financist, a Wikimedia activist, and an editor since 2004. He was the vice president of Wikimedia Poland between 2012 and 2018, and currently is the president of Wikimedia Poland, heading a grassroots chapter that is involved in editing communities, delivering beautiful and novel initiatives to the movement. He believes in self-organized communities, building distributed organizations. And then there is Shani from Israel. Shani Evenstein Sigalov is an educator, a lecturer, a researcher, and a free knowledge advocate who focuses on outreach, governance, and strategy to achieve the vision of free knowledge for everyone. She strives to bridge gender, language, and social gaps throughout her work, including her academic courses on Wikipedia and Wikidata, the first of their kind in the world. In her PhD, Education, Technology, and Learning, she researches the semantic web, specifically Wikidata. Shani Evenstein Sigalov has been a Wikimedia Foundation board member over the last 3 years. There is Kunal Mehta, who happens to come from United States of America and lives in New York City. Kunal started editing on Wikipedia in 2007, initially focused on ice hockey articles. He quickly became hooked with some more technical aspects of the site and later became a contributor and a maintainer on PY Wikibot. He is a recovering media wiki developer, an inactive journalist, and a free culture and free knowledge software enthusiast. He is an admin on the English Wikipedia and Media Wiki and formerly served as a bureaucrat and administrator on Wikidata. He is a volunteer Wikimedia sysadmin with root access plus a two-forge admin. There is Farah Jack Mustaklem. He is from Palestine. Farah is a Wikimedian who is mainly contributing to the Arabic and the English Wikipedias and Wikimedia Commons since 2005. He is a founding member and the former treasurer of Wikimedians of Levant User Group and a member of the Arabic Wikimedians User Group. He is a former member of the Affiliations Committee and was a Wikimedia Strategy Steering Committee member and currently on the Regional Grants Committee for Africa and Middle East. And lastly, there is Mike Pugh amongst these top 6 candidates. Mike has been a Wikimedia editor since 2005 with contributions across Wikipedia, Wikidata, Wikimedia Commons, Wikisource, and more, both by hand and with automated and semi-automated tools. On the organizational side, he co-founded Wikimedia United Kingdom and is a member of Wikimedia Movimento Brazil. He was on the Funds Dissemination Committee for 4 years and is currently a Regional Grants Committee member. By day, he is a radio astronomer based in Tenerife, Canary Islands in Spain. We also extended our invitation to Abhishek Suryawanshi, who is a member of Wikimedia Foundation's Elections Committee. We thought it would be great to learn about the work, the plan, and the design of this committee in regards to the 2022 Board of Trustees election. Abhishek himself joined the Wikipedia movement in 2010. He primarily focuses on offline outreach events and activities. His primary interest is making sure knowledge is freely available, irrespective of technology or language barrier. He has curated over 50 TEDx events in underprivileged communities and conducted over 100 Wikipedia offline workshops in local languages to promote Wikipedia. He is leading several Wikipedia projects, including Wikipedia Swatsa. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome these special guests as we kick off the discussion, starting with you, Abhishek. Hello, Abhishek.
Hello, first of all, thank you so much. It's my pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you so much for organizing this.
The pleasure is ours. Could you shortly introduce yourself in 2 sentences?
Yeah, sure. My name is Abhishek Suryawanshi, long-term Wikipedian, and I believe knowledge should be free, open, and accessible to all, and technology, language, or anything else should not be a barrier. And I'm just a regular Wikipedia, Wikimedia community member like any other member. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. It's another election season for the Wikimedia Foundation. And once again, everyone is yearning for equal representation on the board. Abhishek, what can you say about the need for equal representation when it comes to the board of a community like Wikimedia?
Sure, Wikipedia, the Wikimedia movement is available in 300 plus different languages. And the beauty of the Wikimedia Foundation is it gives power to people like you and me to choose to edit and not just edit at the governance as well. Like anybody who is part of Wikimedia movement can choose who should be their next board of trustees. So that's what makes our movement so special. So I'm on the election committee as well. And again, the many people have misconception that election committee is run by the like we are the paid employees. Like, no, we are not. We are also community members. So almost everybody included, like who is involved in this elections, is a volunteer. So that's the first thing I want to clarify. Second thing is people reach out like, oh, I tried to reach out to elections committee, analysis committee, and then we did not. Why this is happening? Why this is not happening? The simple reason is, again, like the process is evolving. Like we start Wikipedia article as a stub, and we built on that. Similar things, if you are not happy with something that is happening with the committee, or if you have a suggestions that, oh, this can be improved, always feel free to send us an email, and we would be more than happy to like go through it as a committee, and then we can take a call on that.
Interesting. Thank you for emphasizing the fact that the need to have a representation on the board due to the vast number of languages that is already covered by Wikimedia or Wikipedia itself. And then, Abhishek, you have been on the elections committee for quite some time now. Could you please give us a brief overview of the role of this committee, especially as regards this year's elections?
Sure. So the elections committee's main job is to make sure that the elections happen in a fair and democratic manner, making sure the community members' voice is heard, designing the process and implementing it with the help of the Wikimedia Foundation itself. So that's like a oversimplification of it. So we make sure that if candidates need some kind of a support, or if there are some queries, deciding voter eligibility criteria, if there is some confusion about criteria itself, coming up with how to have more diversity, as we talked some time back on the board itself. So these are like some of the tasks of Wikimedia Elections Committee. We are online, just a group of volunteers, as I said earlier. On and often we have a mailing list through which we coordinate. If somebody sends us an email, every one of us gets a copy, and then we discuss on it. That's the overall work procedure of Wikimedia Elections Committee. There is a meta page as well. So either if somebody can like post a comment on the meta page or sends us an email, then we start working towards that if we are not involved in election. So there is another misconception, like we just work election to election, but in between elections also there might be like how we can improve the next election, how we can have like more people participate in the next upcoming election, how we can assist the voters as well as the candidates without putting extra burden on them as well. Because candidates also come from diverse background from different parts of the world, and there might be inequality amongst, starting from the language. Not all the candidates are familiar with the English itself. So when we ask somebody to like write a paragraph in English, like just to submit a paragraph, the pre-default idea is like it will be in English. So we also keep in mind that, and then with the help of the foundation, we have like the translator supports as well as other tasks as well. So this is just an overview of what we do. That is, work with the candidates and work with the voters to make sure we have a healthy democratic elections in this, our beautiful Wikimedia movement.
Interesting, Abhishek. It actually makes me feel very good to know that one of the works of the committee is to make sure that the candidates have it easy. I for one could think of the kind of pressure they're already under, putting up their name to contest. Thank you so much, Abhishek. And then moving on, the elections committee pretty much sounds like a serious business with what you just explained. Who is an ideal member of this committee? How are the elections committee members selected? Abhishek?
So the members are selected by the foundation, and like somebody must have a good understanding of the Wikimedia movement. There are no hard and fast rules as such, like you need to have a certain degree or like some things. So it's just a basic Wikimedia's skills you need to have a lot of patience for sure, and making sure like you can communicate well and represent the community views in front of the foundation as well as the other community members as well, because everybody on the elections committee itself comes up with a specific set and specific skills as well as the specific community. So these are like the just the primary basic requirements to be the elections committee. And I would recommend anybody who loves elections, who loves to be part of like WikiGovernance project, whenever you keep watching the mailing list, whenever there are spots open, then you can just submit your application, and then next election you can like help us to improve the election process as well.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. That is very relatable, especially when you mentioned that an ID committee member should be someone who has extensive knowledge of the Wikimedia movement. Thank you so much, Abhishek. And I understand that significant changes have been made when it comes to the voting system used for this year's election. Abhishek, could you please share insights on what is obtainable in the current voting system?
Sure. So this time, like what we historically had as ASBS, this is the first time when a certain list of candidates were there. Then they were then the analysis committee was also there, which was formed by the affiliates like throughout the world. The affiliates came together and then they ranked, and then the whole procedure and the criteria you can find it on Meta. So the basic idea is there are like set of candidates, they went through a process, and now we have few like finalists, and then they will go through like the community voting process. So this is something new which we have this time, where we are mixing the affiliates as well as the normal community members. This is something which will happen. Just in terms of timeline, we started around April 2022, and by early October 2022, we hope to have trustees confirmed. We are also going to have election compass, which will be like shared on a mailing list soon. Many people get confused, like, okay, I like this candidate, but what this candidate stands for? Like, are they going to solve our problems? So the community members are also allowed to ask questions, and then the candidates are given opportunity to answer those questions, and then they can see like, okay, like this particular candidate is answering what I want to see it in bold, and based on that, though as a normal voter, they can take a call like who to vote from that particular set of people and set of group. You are on mute, sorry, I think.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. I was saying how awesome it was listening to you explain these changes that have been made to the voting system and the whole processes being so something much more inclusive, if I would say, like giving a pre-information to both the community and athletes about perhaps what each candidate stands for to help them make informed decisions when it comes to the person they choose to vote. That's quite an awesome work. We'll be looking forward to seeing the rollout you just mentioned in the coming months. And Abhishek, my last question for you. It really seems that of course, the voting system wasn't the only uplift or facelift that was done to the um, process. I was taken by surprise when I got an email from Mauton telling me about recently updated guidelines for elections candidates, like the fact that candidates must not attend Board of Trustees election-oriented community meetups without pre-approval from the elections committee. Owing to the fact that we've had a similar session last year on board election without, of course, getting to know about things like this. Uh, I could say that the candidates even found out at the same time as myself about these guidelines per se. Abhishek, what process was taken in reviewing these guidelines for candidates?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. The first and the simple answer is equality, equity, and make sure everybody gets the same kind of a chance. Some people have access to resources readily. Somebody who has good internet connection can speak like the people's language. They can come online, sit 24 by 7 in front of the people and like keep saying, vote for me, vote for me, vote for me, which is fine. But at the same time, we might be depriving of a candidate who is well qualified and eligible to be on the Wikimedia Foundation board, but he or she is not well equipped to represent themselves online because of language, technology, or any other challenge. So we want to make sure, like, if somebody is speaking somewhere, that particular opportunity should be equally accessible and available to all the candidates at the same time. If we want to solve the equality and then the equity, and then get the more diversity on the board. So this was a simple thought process. Again, like, we are still evolving over a period of time. And if you guys think like there is a better way to make sure that we can get all the board members, like all the candidates, the same time, space on the web, in this kind of platform. Just imagine, like, I know somebody who is like in India, Africa, or like in America. I'm good friends with them. I will get all the speaking slots there, and other people won't even understand, like, oh, there are like 6 other people running election at the same time. They will see only 2 people. They're like, oh, I know this person I spoke with, and that's why we are going to vote to that person. So I hope this makes sense. This was like a simple thought process behind it. This is just an oversimplified reason. And also there were like some research was also done, what kind of implications will be there. So that's why this year we decided to like make sure if somebody is speaking, make sure everyone else is also speaking on the same platform. If they need any translation support, if they need any video editing support, that kind of, thanks to the Wikimedia Foundation, they are providing that kind of technical support as well. But in order to make sure we give it, it should be easily accessible to all. So this was like the primary reason. I hope this answers your question. And again, the last thing, if you feel this is not this can be improved, if you have a better solution and a plan, we are also volunteer and community. Please feel free to send the proposal. We will go through it, and who knows, by next election cycle we will implement that, and we will have a better elections and better question answer, and then the candidate engagement process.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. I mean, explaining it to this extent is actually nice. It's good that we provide the candidates equal platform to market themselves, and of course manage the respective campaign, that is being done towards marketing themselves. Thank you so much, Abhishek. It's been awesome listening to you give responses to these questions. You have indeed provided insight on the activities of the Wikimedia Foundation's Elections Committee. Perhaps the audience would have a question or more for you during the Q&A segment of the session. We now move forward to engaging the top 6 candidates. Hello, everyone. Starting with you, Shani. Perhaps it would be nice if you guys are able to introduce yourselves in maybe a line or two or more. Short introductions, please. Shani.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shani Evenstein Sigalov. I'm in Israel right now, and I'm currently a member of the Board of Trustees. I serve as the vice chair of the board and the chair of the Community Affairs Committee. I'm also in part of 2 other committees on the board, which is the Technology and Product Committee and the Governance Committee. And thank you for having us today.
The pleasure is ours. Over to you, Mike.
Hi, thanks for having us today. My name is Mike Peel. I'm currently in Spain, in the Canary Islands. I've previously been in Brazil and grew up in the UK. I'm very active across various different Wikimedia projects. Something that wasn't mentioned earlier is the info box on commons categories is something I created a few years back. I've been working on a lot and generally supporting multilingual content across different projects.
Thank you so much, Mike. And you're next, Farah. Oh, you're actually muted, Farah.
Yeah, sorry. My name is Farah Jack Mustaklem. I'm a Wikimedian from Palestine. I'm a software engineer by profession, and a free knowledge and digital rights enthusiast by passion. I have been a Wikimedian for quite some time now, so editing Arabic, English Wikipedia, and then taking part in in several offline activities, been involved with user groups, several committees within the movement. And thanks for having us.
Pleasure is ours. Over to you, Tobechukwu.
Thank you for the opportunity. Hi everyone, my name is Tobechukwu Precious Friday. User Tochi Precious. I'm currently from Nigeria and from the Igbo Wikimedians user group community. I edit more of the Igbo language Wikipedia, and I'm more of someone who is in for diversity, inclusion, languages, and when it comes to personal career, I'm much more of a multilingual program and project manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you, Kunal.
Hi, my name's Kunal Mehta, user layer KTM. I've been involved in primarily on the technical side of things for the past decade, and I was served as a Wikimedia Foundation staff member for about 8 years. And that's primarily, I'd like to bring my technical and staff experience to the board. And thanks for having us.
Pleasure. And you, Michał Buczyński.
Good day, everyone. I'm Michał Buczyński, and hello from the sunny Warsaw. Great to be with you. I'm a Wikipedian managerial student who turned to be Wikipedian and a finance specialist in my career. So I started in 2004, learning and changing Wikipedia and helping it grow and establishing new procedures and controls and societies and in both Wikipedia and then a Wikimedia affiliate, helping it grow, helping to build a brilliant community. One flash update: because of the Board of Trustees elections, I have demoted myself just recently from the president to be only the vice president and be more ready to switch should you elect me. Thank you.
Thank you, Michal. And then starting with you, Michal, at the same time, there is almost always a thought process leading to the point where you decided to join the Wikimedia Foundation Board of Trustees race. Who or what compelled you to put your name down as a candidate? Who or what was the instigator?
What was the reason? So for me, the reason was hearing about the needs of the Board of Trustees, to be honest. It was all the time when I heard that in the Board of Trustees, we need, for instance, more finance people to help us with the finance of the Wikimedia Foundation. It was a little bit for me like, pick me. Why not? I have a 15 years of career in the finance, and I do some oversight. I did it in the FDC and for the much smaller entity, but this is a Wikimedia Foundation affiliate. So why not give it a try if we don't have the good people? And also it is helping to make the Wikimedia Foundation grow and make the communities grow in the same time. So I see a lot of opportunities in that, and that's it.
Thank you. How about you, Kunal? Why did you put up your name?
Yeah, so this is actually the second time I'm running for the board. The last time I ran was in 2016, and I was running after the big governance crisis at the Wikimedia Foundation that I experienced firsthand as a staff member, in which the executive director, really caused a lot of problems. And the reason I'm running is actually for the same reasons, is because the board has not fixed a lot of those governance problems. The board's solution has just been to try and hire the right CEO, which is good in the short term, but in the long term, we need to actually fix the governance problems and make sure that staff are able to do their jobs to benefit the entire Wikimedia movement. And the other part is that the board's main role is to provide oversight over the Wikimedia Foundation. And a large part of the Wikimedia Foundation's responsibilities is all of the technical work. But the board doesn't actually have anyone with technical experience working on Wikimedia projects, and all of our unique technical perspectives. So I'm really hoping that I'm able to bring those two qualities to the board and start pushing us in the right direction.
That's very interesting, Kunal, knowing that this is your second go at the board seats. And then over to you, Shani. I mean, you're currently on the board. Why are you hoping to re-up, if I would say?
Thank you for this question. I think, when I joined the board, I was very passionate, like some of the candidates right now, to help fix some of the issues that I've been experiencing as a volunteer, as someone who really likes the movement and see what we need to deal with as volunteers. And so that was my initial prompt to join. But the board and the Wikimedia Foundation, and actually our whole movement, is quite different than it was 3 years ago. Since I was elected, I was able to push for specific things, and especially now as vice chair, I'm the chair of the Community Affairs Committee, which I founded. It didn't exist before I was a trustee. That enabled me to have a platform for better and more transparent relationship with the community, and actually creating these mechanisms that didn't exist. And again, as a vice chair, we not only, leaving the vice chair aside for a second, I'll say that we changed in the past year and a half both the CEO and the board chair. That has a huge impact on the board, and there are different processes that we've started. So what I'm hoping to achieve by continuing is simply seeing through some of the processes that I was able to start, and seeing some of the work that we've been doing come to fruition. And I'll note that it takes quite a lot of time for any trustee to get onboarded and actually understand how the board works, how things get done. So a second term would also be more efficient in that sense, because it will simply allow me to continue the work that we've started and continue see the shift that we're pushing for quite some time now. And I think some of you have been seeing changes in the past year. So thanks.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting point of view. I mean, trying to finish what you've started in the past, and we hope perhaps that gets to happen for you. Coming to you, Farah, you've been a Wikimedian for quite some years now. As a Wikimedian, not as a candidate now, what do you think is the most pressing issue that Wikimedians face across the movement? How do you hope to address that issue should you be elected?
Okay, so I've been a Wikimedian for close to 17 years now. I've been contributing to the Arabic and English Wikipedias, Commons, Wikidata. In addition to my offline activities, so starting user groups, being involved with education programs, and holding workshops. So yeah, with all that history, I feel like one of the pressing issues nowadays is knowledge equity. So knowledge is currently concentrated in languages of the global north, and about topics of the global north. Even the contributors are mainly from the more developed countries. So one of the things. So there have been individual initiatives to help bridge these gaps, and they're constantly being undertaken. But this is not enough. I believe that the foundation and the movement as a whole needs to find a better way to close in on this knowledge gap little by little. So I think we need to be consciously putting effort to add resources, to allocate resources, and to increase equity within the movement.
Awesome. Of course, there is always need to diversify the Wikimedia movement in order to include, I mean, the population that is from the underdeveloped or the developing part of the globe. How about you, Mike? I know you would have a reaction or two towards this question.
Yeah, I kind of follow on from what Farah's been saying. That so I've lived in Brazil. I'm currently living in Spain, And the English Wikipedia is terrible for those countries. There's just very little information in English language about those countries. It is there in Portuguese and Spanish, and we need to have better ways to kind of translate and be able to break out kind of knowledge silos which are based in different areas and make that available more widely across the world. And I think that links heavily into what was mentioned before about technology development. So I do a lot with Wikidata at the moment with the info box on Commons and things like that, where it's trying to make sure that information is available in all languages, so you can browse Commons in your language and see the same information you see elsewhere. But there's limitations about how far you can really go with that, with the on-wiki work you can do. And that's something I'm really hoping the foundation will be working on more in the future, to try to invest in the technologies across all the different Wikimedia projects, all the sister projects, to make that easier to do and just to make more information available, not just for what's in your area.
Thank you, Mike. And Tochi, coming to you. I mean, you've been a Wikimedian for years now. What issue have you noticed in the movement? And if you are elected, how do you hope to address this particular issue?
For me, just like one of the candidates also mentioned, it's the challenge of knowledge equity. When you come to other regions like Africa, where I come from, there's this underrepresentation, there's this, should I say, there's this inclusion, like we're not so much included in whatever it is that is happening, and this is something I hope to change if I am elected to the board. I would like to bring diversity, I would like to bring inclusion, because every language matters, every region matters. So in whatever we are doing as a Wikimedia movement, or as Wikimedia as a movement, or even the Wikimedia Foundation itself, we need diversity and inclusion. And for me, this is something I would like to address. I'm also glad that the movement strategy is has been developed to also address a whole lot of these issues, which I am happy to be a part of, and to also help implement and support if I'm elected to the board.
Thank you, Tochi. Of course, the movement strategy is a strong case in point, and it's a process like we have all come to know during the discussion. Coming to you, Kunal, I mean, now that we're talking about 2030 movement strategy, you've witnessed the discussions around the subject when it comes to 2030 movement strategy of the Wikimedia Foundation. How do you plan to contribute towards the movement strategy implementation during your term on the board if you are elected?
Yeah, so I think the movement strategy is really great, and the process has resulted in some good outcomes. I think it's important that the board, if elected to the board, is not leading on these things. I think that the board, should be letting the community members lead on this, and those who are interested in pushing these initiatives. One aspect I do see where that the board will probably be involved is the upcoming Global Council and the movement charter. I think the board will have input to give on both of those, and will also hopefully be ceding some power to the official movement bodies.
Nice. And you, Michal, how do you hope to, make sure there is good or best practice when it comes to implementing the movement strategy 2030? Michal, are you there?
Yes, I am there. It's a very good question, because now I'm sitting on a MCDC. We're just trying to implement the strategy, and I was one of the people. Some of the people are here in this on the two sides of this circle, who have been writing the strategy and drafting the strategy. So there is a number of things that we need to make implemented. For instance, the one that is happening right now is a diversification and more global distribution of the Wikimedia movement. So decentralization that we are trying to implement. As we are talking, the first hub, the CE hub, the regional hub is starting. It's already operating. And it would be good to ensure that more regions and more communities have this opportunity to give the better service to people who live in this in particular regions, in particular languages, in particular technical communities, and so on and so forth. The other one is the proper assistance to all the affiliates, the thing that we are trying to do with the MCDC and the Global Council in the future. So assuring that we have the independent and strong partners for the Wikimedia Foundation, and we have the whole ecosystem, that this is not that centralized and kept in one place of the world. It's very important, because if we are more diverse and we are more spread and we have more even internal competition, or we can learn from each other, then we can create more practice. We can create much better things if we can learn from each other and we have more sources of invention and the leadership. So at least, for instance, these are the first things, and there are much more to follow on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michal. That point really resonates with me. Learn from each other. I mean, some Wikimedian communities are ahead of others. So we could easily look at what these guys have successfully done in the past, learn, adapt, and get to implement on our own side of things. Thank you so much for reiterating on that point. Moving to the next question, starting with you, Tochi. Part of the 2030 movement strategy discussions mentioned underrepresented communities. What do you think are the main needs of the underrepresented communities around the world?
Thank you for the question. I'm someone who actually do love the movement strategy a whole lot. And from my experience as someone who is from an underrepresented region, like I said, Africa, from that experience, we need skills, we need leadership and tools development. We also need inclusion when it comes to decision making processes. And we also need more outreach and awareness creation in the region, not just our region, Africa. There are also so many underrepresented regions in the global movement which need to be included. And also, we need, when it comes to Africa, and also some people from other continents are also experiencing the issue of IP block exempt, IP block challenge. If we could get that IP block exempt, because a lot of Africans want to learn, a lot of Africans want to tell their story, want to contribute. So if we can have that IP block exempt, it's going to go a long way in helping us. And coming from the area where Africa as a whole is more like an untapped gold mine for the BMF, because even for the global wiki movement, because there's a lot coming from Africa. When it comes to Africa, there's a whole lot of rich stories. There's a whole lot of languages untapped, a minimal number of languages represented on Wikimedia, and a whole lot of people want to help to share this free knowledge and also want to tap from the knowledge as well. So if we can get that IP block exempt, because it's something that I noticed that affects a lot of people, and not just, if you go on Meta, there was some time ago they had to open a Meta page where there was a discussion bordering around that. And another thing is that all of these things I've just talked about still falls in line with the movement strategy recommendations in one way or the other. So if we can get this underrepresentation is going to be something that will help a whole lot to build our skills and all of the things we need, both as Wikimedians and also to solve the challenge of underrepresentation for various continents and also various regions. Thank you, Steph.
Thank you so much, Tochi. Yes, I remember there was a time, even during the Wiki Loves Africa international contest, we had to create a list of the blocked, as I used to call them. Florence Devoir led that initiative, and we came up with an idea to keep a log in case we have to perhaps make a class appeal for exemption. Farah, for once, you looked like you had something to say in respect to this very subject. Please go ahead.
Yes, indeed. Excuse me. So I do believe that, as Tachi was saying, that underrepresented communities, due to historical inequality that they've had, they continue to receive less support and fewer resources than the more developed countries. So I'm a proponent of the decentralized hubs concept that Michal was pushing for. So I fully support that, and I think that's really a good way to increase representation for the underrepresented communities. So where the regional hub would be in charge of supporting communities that they are more involved with, that they're closer to, that they can understand those communities better. So part of this has been with the decentralized grants committees, which I'm a part of. I think this is a great start. That the grant making is more decentralized, but I believe that even more and more decentralization needs to be done to better support the communities and the, like, because of the specificities of the different regions. Yeah, that's that.
Thank you, Farah. Thank you. Shani, I mean, you've been in the room or in the boardroom where subjects like these have been discussed. So I will be doing us a disservice if I don't get to ask you what you think about this particular subject.
Well, I can say that the board is heavily interested in, addressing the whole DEI, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion in everything we do. It includes the people that we bring onto the board, and hence what the board, before the election, the board kind of said what we're looking for. And I think diversity has always been on our mind, and we're really trying to create a process where more people from more diverse places and points of view can join the board. But it's also about, as the previous candidates mentioned, it's about missing structures in our movement and making sure that the internal processes that we have really support it. Tochi talked about, missing tools and missing capacity building options. We're working on all of that. And I would say that, to me, diversity, equity, inclusion, I always think about our this vision of having all of human knowledge reaching out to every single person in their own language. And I also, when I talk in presentations and lectures, I always add online and also offline, because to me, one of the things that we're really trying to do is include all of humanity. And it's important to know that only half of the world is connected to the internet, plus minus, right? And so how do we reach out to the second half that is not even online? So how do we not only address diversity and community health within the current existing movement, but also how do we bring in new communities that are not participating yet, and how do we bring knowledge to them, and how do we make them participate in creating knowledge? So to me, it's a complex issue that is layered, and dealing with solutions has to happen on these different layers, on internally looking, externally looking, also acknowledging some threats that we have from the outside that are changing the world. We're all as simply as digital citizens, combating fake news, combating deep fake even, right? But there are technological aspects to it. There are legal issues of totalitarian regimes that are threatening us. So there are all sorts of threats, and from the outside, from within, that we need to kind of address to really be able to be inclusive and have community health the way that we've imagined it for 2030. And I'm hoping we can get there. I'm actually happy about the steps that we've taken so far, but I think we can do so much more. And hoping that we're all in the right direction now that we have an actual strategy and a movement-wide agreement on the things that we want to focus on. I'm hoping it would be easier. And also a new CEO and a new chair newish, right, that are completely aligned with the strategy is very important to the process. So I'm happy to see specifically the Wikimedia Foundation. We've just wrapped the annual planning process for this coming year. And I was extremely happy to see Mariana Iskander, our new CEO, aligning the Wikimedia Foundation towards the movement strategy. To me, that was a really good sign. And I look forward to seeing how that unravels in the coming year.
Yes, thank you so much, Shani. I mean, the divide digitally is so deep, but I mean, there are awesome initiatives that are really, doing their bit.
Internet in a
I would
box.
say.
Kiwi.
Yes, there is internet in a box. There's
Yeah.
Kiwix, there's Wikifundi.
Yeah.
Good and great initiatives, but
Yes.
then these I will call them tiny efforts. They really need to be complemented largely from the top. Talk about the Wikimedia Foundation coming in as much as possible to aid these little initiatives here and there. Thank you so much for that great point, Shani. Mike, yeah, the next question would start with you, and that's basically about community resources. Allocation of community resources, Mike, remains a subject of discussion at various levels of the movement. Do you think regional quota for grants or funding and things like participation to Wikimedia or Wikimania or Wikimedia Summit should be removed? Do you think these quota system should be removed? If not, what do you think?
So I've been involved in grant making for kind of the last decade or so now, I think from the FDC for 4 years and onto the grants committee in the North and West Europe region. And I'm always kind of supporting those affiliates and trying to get more resources to them, because I think they're really the best place to be able to figure out the answers to these questions. I think quotas are very much a blunt instrument, because it really depends on kind of understanding the region and what's going on within it. Because going back to what Shani was saying, there's a lot of diversity in regions. So in rich areas, there can still be a lot of people who are very under-resourced. And if you've got a quota which is restricting how much can be done in that region, that can actually be limiting them. On the same time, in underrepresented countries, you also have very well-resourced people already. And you want to make sure you're actually getting to the right people, and you want to be as equitable as possible. So I tend to think that kind of affiliates and regions are really the best place to figure that out, but not necessarily just with quotas or limits. So I think it's really down to, it needs a devolution to the affiliates to be able to do that kind of work, rather than being dictated from foundation level, I think. On the flip side, I have also seen some organizations that do grow too quickly, and it can be really unhelpful for them to do that. It does need to be a natural progression to grow. And if we try to kind of force different organizations to grow more quickly than they want, that's also going to be a bit of a problem in the long term. And I think the real elephant in the room is that a lot of money, a lot of resources, a lot of positions at conferences and things like that are dominated by the US, which is a problem. It just needs to be a really, well, we're a global movement. It needs to be a global representation. Yeah. You're muted.
Sorry about that. But I was saying, of course, Mike, that a very strong point. There is absolute need for equitable distribution of the resources, be it the quota around grants or funding, or quota to conferences per se. That way, we could really make sure that we are carrying as everybody involved in the movement as possible along.
I think it just needs to be more fine-grained than that, rather than being the blunt instrument of a quota. That's my main point.
Okay, the blunt instrument. That's that's a very figurative expression, if I would say. But yes, that makes absolute sense. Kunal, what do you think about this distribution when it comes to community resources?
Yeah, I hope I can pivot back to the IP blocks discussion just for a moment, because I think that was incredibly important and a problem that is really, hurting people in Africa much more than the rest of the world. Part of the problem is that administrators and stewards who are responsible for stopping spam and vandalism on the projects have been given very few tools on what to do, and their best tool right now is IP blocks, even though we all know today that they're not effective in the long term and end up hurting more people than they help. And really, this goes back to the Wikimedia Foundation not prioritizing and devoting resources to improving the anti-spam tools to make them more finer grained, so that way they can just, block the spam bots and not legitimate users. And it's really unfortunate because we actually had a project called Admin Tools Development back in 2014, 2015, that was working on these things, and the foundation chose to deprioritize it. So when we talk about allocation of community resources, one of the ideas I'm really trying to promote and would like to bring to the board is the idea of bottom-up prioritization, which is to say that the editors and staff who are on the ground doing the work should be the ones who are, really deciding and providing input on where all of the resources go, what projects and what issues are tackled and get prioritized. Right now, we see that a lot of it comes directly from the top, from the board, and upper management, and then you see all of this like money and resources and time going towards issues like branding, which which depending on your perspective may or may not be an issue. But collectively, I think we would all be much more excited if we could solve, issues that are fundamental to how people edit the projects, like IP blocks first, and making sure that those issues are tackled. And, I think all editors, both administrators, stewards, and also people who are trying to edit recognize that this is a problem and want to see it solved, but just don't have the tools because these projects have not been resourced and funded.
Wow. Kunal, that's an amazing point. I mean, actually tactically channeling these resources to the places or subjects or projects in which they are needed. Something like the IP block, of course, would probably top that list to make sure that people from the underrepresented communities or people that are from communities that are always experiencing these blocks get to have a solution to their problem. Thank you so much for that very amazing point,
exactly.
Kunal. How about you, Michal? What do you think about this subject? You are
You can
muted,
unmute.
actually.
Sorry for that. So I'm 80% with Kunal. However, unfortunately, it is a little bit more complicated. So you can trust me as a Wikimedia affiliate, board person and a person from the FTC. So certainly it needs to be, so all the spendings and all the actions that we are coming, they need to be a response to some need. This need should be submitted by the staffers. It should be submitted by volunteers who are doing this thing. But also we need to remember about the people who are not in the room. As Shani said, that there are 3 billion people who are not connected to the internet. There are many people who are not with us in the movement. There are the readers who are very often muted because they are not in the room with us. So we need to think about a much larger landscape of the Wikimedia ecosystem, of the future people who will be with us in 5, 10, 15 years, that we need to stay relevant, that we have a lot of needs and we have a lot of great ideas, because come on, we are the greatest website, educational, not only educational, we are the greatest fun website, information website on the whole internet. So we should be much larger and we should be going to much more people and we should have much more resources, but we need to have it structured. So it needs to be the constant discussion of the people who are proposing the ideas and the leadership, the people who are understanding the local context, and they are translating it into a strategic roadmap that we need to go in this direction, we need to go in that direction, we need to make sure that, for instance, the education is addressed, and we need to make sure that the volunteer support is addressed, and we need to make sure that the outreach to the new people and the technological stuff for the new people who will have the new devices, it needs to be addressed. So it is a very difficult process. Partially, this is part of the board of trustees to oversee that this process is going, that this communication is flowing from the bottom to the top, in the middle, in the middle level to the bottom. It's a constant discussion and sharing experience and sharing the insight. And when we have this process and this insight is shared from the bottom to the top, to the middle, to the bottom, between the peers and so on, then we have the great decisions, and then the movement will flourish. That's basically my stance.
Thank you so much, Michal, for shining light on the little complications here and there about the particular subject. Shani, in a line or two, can you, step in on this very topic?
Yeah, thanks. I want to just continue what Michal is saying and just maybe iterate, stress the complexity of it all. First, the board is in charge of strategy, right? It's not supposed to be dealing with operations, but it's supposed to guide and to oversee the Wikimedia Foundation. So making sure that the way that the Wikimedia Foundation works is it has good leadership and good structures to do it is key. I want to share in the context of resource allocation. I completely agree with Michal that we cannot focus only on one thing. As the board and also the Wikimedia Foundation leadership, we have to look at the whole thing. I think one of the challenges that we've had in the past has been that the Wikimedia Foundation, first of all, we all recognize that there is a missing structure right now, right? That's why we're working on creating the Global Council. In a sense, the Wikimedia Foundation Board of Trustees was supposed to be the board of the Wikimedia Foundation, but it kind of operates as if it's the board of the whole movement simply because that body is, as of now, lacking. At the same time, the Wikimedia Foundation itself is sort of expected to do or address everything. So I think it would be good to know and to note and acknowledge that the Wikimedia Foundation can't do anything. I think it's going to be a really interesting process in the coming year or 2 years to see how we limit our focus and see where we can invest our energy and where other entities in our movement can take on the role, whether it's hubs or the Global Council while it's operating, or big chapters as we already have these examples like Wikimedia Deutschland taking on Wikidata, or Wikimedia Sweden leading things related to GLAM, so there's that issue. And I think one of the good things that Mariana did when she just started out was a mapping exercise of just looking at, and I think we should all, anyone in the movement should go look at that, but just mapping the types of things that we need to be addressing as an organization it's just unbelievable. And I think the mapping exercise was really important because it kind of showcased that there are so many things that we really need to be fixed. And all of them have people, volunteers, who are crying for resources and money and tools and capacity building, all of that. And we somehow, as a movement, will have to do a process of prioritizing, of deciding what comes first and what comes later, and also what we're not going to do because it's outside of our scope. So yes, I agree. There are some technical issues that need to be fixed. I will say to that one last thing, and that is we've just hired a new CPTO for after many years of having a product department and a technology department at the foundation. We're going to have one person, Selena Deckelman, who's onboarding. She started at August 1st, and she's going to look again at the whole structure of these two departments at the Wikimedia Foundation. It's extremely important because these two departments are the majority of staff is under these two departments. It's a big portion of what the Wikimedia Foundation is doing is the technology and product. So I really look forward to her reassessing how we can reallocate everything that we do internally and do it in a much more efficient way. And also at the same time, tying it more strongly to a movement strategy, which I'm hoping will help. The last thing I want to say is that the Community Affairs Committee currently is in the process of doing an exercise as a board, looking at things strategically, doing an exercise internally of mapping different issues that we see burning on the ground, right, that are not fixed yet. And we're hoping that through this exercise, we can help our staff at the Wikimedia Foundation prioritize and also use our staff and volunteers to kind of find solutions to these problems and make sure that whatever is in the annual plan, we're also trying to address these big issues. Mariana has already pointed out that there's going to be this year a new trial happening in Commons and also a focus on Wikidata. So I'm really hoping these two are going to be good pilots to see what else we can do with things that have been waiting for a really, really long time. So I'm hopeful. I'm also cognizant that we can't fix everything at the same time, and we will need your help, the community, to communicate with us and tell us what you need and what is more difficult for you. Also recognizing that it cannot, we need as a movement to find ways to actually know who thinks what, because that has also been one of our challenges, making sure that it's not only the people who know English the best, right? That smaller languages are also represented, and not only the people who shout the loudest, either on English Wikipedia or on Meta. How can we be really inclusive in decision making? So, thank you.
That's quite digestive, Shani. When you take on a question, the fact that you've been in there, makes you have, how do I say, a particular grip about how, giving an extensive response. But thank you so much. Yes, as much as we have expectations as a movement, we have to have also realistic approach to these expectations. Next question is starting with you, Tochi. Every election season in the movement, there is always like an existence of two voices in the movement. One of the voices emphasizing on diversity, and then the other on capability. Tochi, do you think representing diversity is more important than individual qualifications of the members of Board of Trustees? What do you think?
All right. Thank you again, Sesamos, for the question. Being someone who has been doing a lot in the DI space, diversity, equity, and inclusion space, I would say that the both of them are very, very important. Diversity is important, capability is also important. And we can actually get the both of them at once, like we can get them all in one. Because when it comes to underrepresented regions in both maybe Asia, Africa, or any continent that we're talking about, we can get qualified people who are capable, and we're also looking at them and giving them the opportunity to be in this space. Also, another angle of it is that sometimes they might not have the opportunity to come to prove themselves, and that is the reason why we need to give them that opportunity, and that's where the diversity comes into play. So in summary, yes, we can get them all in one, and we can also make the ground very much leveled for them to also be able to participate and show their capacity, because no one has got it all together. And I'm very glad the BOT election has been following this process of diversity and inclusion, and they understand, or to an extent, they understand that everyone is not the same, every environment is not the same. So they are trying to make everything diversified and give everyone a kind of leveled playing ground. So in my own opinion, yes, we can get it all in one, and we can make the environment a very leveled playing ground for everyone to participate in. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that strong point of having a total package. How about you, Mike? What do you think? Is diversity much more important, or individual skills?
Well, I'm probably the least diverse person you could ask that question to, being white male from the UK originally. I think what you were just saying about a level playing field is really important, and it's good to see the election committee doing that. But also, I think it's not just about the diversity of the board itself. It's really about the diversity of everyone that's engaged within the Wikimedia movement. So it's a much bigger question for me. And just trying to make sure that everyone does have a voice in that within kind of the structure of different organizations within Wikimedia, I think is really important. I can't really say much more than that, sorry.
Oh, of course. Kunal, over to you. I mean, you had mentioned about how important it is to have someone who with a particular skill set on the board. What do you think about this?
My answer to diversity or skill set is why not both? Why don't we find diverse and talented people who can sit on the board? The community has never elected someone from an Indian background to sit on the board, so I'd really like to be the first person. The community also hasn't elected someone who's an active, sysadmin in over a decade or even, a decade and a half now. I think when we talk about what skills the board needs, I think the board really needs more technical experience that understands, the problems and realities that both editors and staff have, and as well as that the board needs staff experience. It needs, someone who understands what it's like to be a staff member and what it means, and what needs staff have from the board. And I think that, I come with both, a diverse personal background, but also a diverse, professional background and skills that I've picked up. So.
Thank you for that point, Kunal. And you, Farah, it seems you have something to say.
So real quick, so not all qualifications are equal. The board has a great skill set. They have a good number of very qualified members, but qualification is really a subjective term, I think. So depending who's evaluating the qualifications, and for example, if the evaluation is being performed based on so-called Western standards, or they could differ between different regions, and I think that needs to also be taken into account. But of course, as Kunal was saying, and everyone else was saying, that both having diverse and qualified members is even better than choosing one of the one of the two. Well qualified people come from very diverse backgrounds, and they bring in a richer experience if you diversify the backgrounds that these qualified people are coming from.
Thank you so much, Farah, for that. Yes, if we must have to measure the qualifications, yes, it's right to ask the question by whose standards, and to make sure that we are not, seeing things from blind spots per se. Thank you. And Shani, in a line or two, quickly react on that very topic.
Yeah, very quickly, I agree with what has been said. I think we don't have to choose. We need to aspire to have both of them, both quality candidates who have specific skills and also diversity as much as possible. I think it is important to note maybe that the Wikimedia Foundation specifically is incorporated in the US. So having, for instance, some good grasp of English is very helpful to candidates. And I also think, that's why we have different types of seats. So even if the community is not able to select every single criterion that the board needs, that is why we have appointed seats, especially for that reason, right? And historically, for instance, we usually bring someone like today on our board. Tanya Capuano is having these financial expertise, and usually you need someone with that type of expertise for the audit committee. So there are specific things that you really have to have for us to be legally incorporated and acknowledged in the US. And I think what is not elected could be then appointed by the board itself.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shani. And thank you so much, Tobechukwu Precious Friday. Thank you, Farah Jack Mustaklem. And Kunal Mehta, you guys have been amazing. You too, Michal and Mike Peel. You've been amazing at addressing the questions that have been raised so far. And hopefully someone from the audience would have a question or some questions for you guys. And we now move to the Q&A session and welcome our audience to ask our guests any questions that they might have. Okay, Alexander Peshansky is asking, if we could only choose one, what would be the top product and technology priority we should focus on? Mike?
Yeah, I think this is a really difficult question because there are so many different things that product and technology really need to prioritize. I think for me, I'd actually kind of pick an area, which would be the community wish list, that has been a really successful thing over the last few years, has got huge numbers of ideas coming in of things which have been, well, booking the community for kind of a decade or more, or things which the community thinks are really important. And they only can do kind of 10 of those, or maybe a few more than that, but it's very limited in what it can do. So I think really increasing that and focusing more on what the community needs will be a really important thing for product and technology to do. I'm also not just looking at the big Wikipedia, but also all the sister projects. Wiki's also been in love for years, and it's a really fantastic project. So just trying to get more support out there would be really good.
Thank you, Mike. Tochi, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for the question. That's a very good one. The truth is that from my own perspective, we can never say there's one technology, one product, and then we say we are done. From my own experience, that's just not possible. But then my advice or my opinion would be that whatever product or tool we are going to develop should be a tool that is focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It should be DEI centered. I love the fact, I don't know if maybe you saw the collaboration, or you got the news about the collaboration with from Wikimedia Deutschland, Wikimedia Indonesia, and Igbo Wikimedians user group. Now, from that collaboration, these user groups or these communities are developing tools by the community and for the community. So in this kind of situation, we need to we cannot say we are done with one tool, but we just need tools that are focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's my own opinion.
Thank you so much, Tochi. Over to you, Shani. Would you like something to say?
Yeah, I'm going to cheat a bit, Joao, because I can't pick one. There's just no way. There are too many important things that need to happen technologically, from things that were raised today of, fixing specific things that our editors and our admins need to actually track whether these are harassments that are happening online. So we have a healthier community, to things like the IP blocking, or things like patrolling new articles on specific Wikipedias that we have. I'm not even talking about other tools for outreach that anyone involved in outreach know that we need better tools for education, for glam work, for medicine. The one aspect that I want to highlight, though, is that we have to keep innovating. Whatever we do and whatever tools we need, we have to keep innovating and not be afraid to try new things. I think the fact that we don't have videos yet is just like I can't grasp it, right? Most of the people online today learn from videos, and unless we address that, I think we will become very soon obsolete. And so we need to kind of keep an eye on that, and also on other technological advancements like machine learning and kind of harnessing technology to help do what we do. And Joao is actually involved in doing some of that with his Wikidata work of creating, helping auto-generating content for smaller communities that have less resources is a huge deal, right? And so much could be done. So Joao, sorry, can't pick one. There are too many good things to do in technology and tech, and it's a matter of prioritizing them. They're all important to me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for providing answers to this particular question. And then there is one from Arhas. Where do you stand on the recognition of a Wikimedia Foundation employee union? Under what criteria would you do or not do so? Kunal, could you please answer this question? Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to. And this is actually something I specifically called out in my candidate statement, that the Wikimedia Foundation Board should support the creation of a staff union. But part of the problem goes back to, the governance problems that we had in 2016. Basically, that the way the board operates is that it primarily hears from the CEO and C levels. Now, when the CEO and the C levels are, in fact, the problems, the board has no way of hearing from staff. At the time, the board had a good idea, which was to appoint a staff ombudsperson that staff could talk to, and then the ombudsperson would report directly to the board if there were issues with the CEO or other C levels. And even though the board promised this to staff, back in 2016, the board never delivered on it. So I think first, on my priority on the board would be to establish this staff ombudsperson. And then the second thing is that the board should support staff unionizing. I think that this is really the best way for staff to have a collective voice and be able to raise their concerns with upper management and all the way up to the board. While the board, according to US law, can't just say we're creating a union for you. It has to be something that staff do themselves. There are specific concrete steps that the board can take to support a staff union, including indicating that it will voluntarily recognize a union that has majority support from staff, and also promising not to engage in union busting tactics, which we've all too well seen at, big tech companies like Amazon and Starbucks and Google. And so I think that, it is incredibly important. The morale of staff, staff are the ones who do a lot of the technical work that we just discussed, and when, if staff are constantly in fear of their jobs or constantly being reorganized against their will, that means less things are happening. We're not doing as good of a job on the resources that we have. And at the end of the day, it hurts editors and it hurts the movement. So I hope that, if selected, will definitely be one of the things I'm pushing for.
Thank you, Kunal. Michal, do you have something to say?
So regarding the union, basically the American labor law will be pretty binding over there. So I'm pretty sure that and pretty confident the Wikimedia Foundation Board and the executives will follow the letter and the intent of the law, so they will provide the space for the unionizing if the employees of the Wikimedia Foundation will be willing to unionize, actually. And so far, Wikimedia Foundation and the Wikimedia movement itself has been really welcoming, I believe, for the staffers of the Wikimedia Foundation, making sure that they are the part of the movement, that they are with us, that they are sharing our concerns and our best wishes to the overall movement. So they are really dedicated to the intent of what we are doing. So this is good. But what Kunal said was very, very important about the communication between the board and the staffers of the Wikimedia Foundation. Actually, even I believe in 2016, the FDC made a recommendation as a written statement to the board of the Wikimedia Foundation while assessing the Wikimedia Foundation budget and annual plan, that there should be a more more connection of the board with the staffers, that some additional site and additional venue to making checks with what is going on with the Wikimedia Foundation itself, be it with an independent auditor who would be responsible only to the Wikimedia Foundation Board of Trustees or the controlling or any other venue. So make sure that you have more ways to be with the staffers to understand what is going in this organization. I think Mike is noting, because Mike was the other person in the room who's making the same recommendation, and we were sharing all this view and perception that the Board of Trustees should have a more stronger connection with the Wikimedia Foundation itself to better understand and better govern, to have the tighter control over the organization. It's as difficult because they are and we are all volunteers, so it should be facilitated by some professionals who should be responsible directly to the Wikimedia Foundation Board of Trustees. Yes, so thank you very much for raising.
Oh, that's an interesting insight you've shared on the particular question. Mike, since you were the other person in the room, perhaps you could very briefly react to the question.
Yeah, very briefly, I think it should be up to the foundation employees to decide kind of what they want to do with that kind of setup, and then for the board to support it. I don't think anything should be imposed from on high. I think it really needs to be grassroots. And yeah, as Michal said, FTC has been putting in various recommendations to the foundation over the years, including on that point, and it'd be really good to see things change there. That's brief.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Any more questions from the audience? Okay, there's one from Rafa Stang. It says the foundation has had a striking staff growth in the recent past, including in a period in which the Wikimedia Foundation had no CEO and in non-priority areas. Should we reduce the staff number? Shani, perhaps you can react to this question.
I wouldn't say reduce necessarily. At the moment, what I'm looking for to see now is more stability. I would say we were growing fast, and I think the coming CEO wants to see more stability and more reorganizing internally, using the resources that we already have, the people, the talent that we already have to do the work, rather than hiring more. That can be seen in the annual plan as well.
Thank you so much for shining light on that very fact. Would any other person like to perhaps Farah? I mean, perhaps you have something to add.
Yeah, so I agree with Shani that the staff growth needs to be more focused on where it's needed, instead of reducing the current staff number. So yeah, reprioritizing sounds like a good strategy to going forward.
Thank you, Farah. And how about you, Mike? You have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a kind of related point here that on the affiliate side of things, affiliates have been told, no, you can't add staff because there's no money to do that for the long term. And at the same time, the foundation has been increasing staff at an increasing rate. And it seems there really is a dichotomy there which doesn't really make sense. So I think trying to kind of even the playing field would be really important here, and say, look, foundation, you're saying these rules apply to affiliates, you need to follow them as well, or we need to jointly kind of revise those rules. I think is an important thing. I think that's all I've got to say on that point.
Thank you so much, Mike. That's an amazing amplification to the question raised. Kunal, I mean, you can go ahead to add something if you have anything to add. Kunal, are you there?
He was saying he needs to move room.
Oh, okay. Perhaps he's away from his PC. Uh, I don't know if there are more questions from the
Sorry,
audience.
I'm back. If I can still answer this one.
Sure. Go ahead, Kunal.
I would like to see, right now, I think the foundation has gone through pretty rapid hiring. I'd like to see it stabilize. I'm not sure we should advocate for a reduction yet. I think it's important to see how the different proposals around decentralization go. And sorry, I'm just switching rooms. It's important to see how different proposals around decentralization go, and whether different areas that the Wikimedia Foundation has grown into should actually be split off into different movement entities, like in the past happened with the Wiki Education Foundation. The one other comment I'd like to make about recent staff growth is that when the Wikimedia Foundation does these kinds of expansions, it should really be focusing on targeted things. Over the past year and a half, a lot of engineering departments saw an increase in hiring managers, and ultimately the problem was that we never hired the engineers for the managers to actually manage, and so we had an increased headcount without actually seeing a significant increase in productivity. So it's important that if the foundation does continue to expand, it does so in a meaningful manner.
Thank you, Kunal, for that interesting point. And in the light of this, I think that'll be all from the community. And I want to say a huge thank you to you, the special guests, for actually making our time to address each of these questions raised during the Q&A session. We now move forward to the news items for today. And with me today...
Sorry, can we say thank you to you? You've done a fantastic job hosting and coordinating the questions. So I just really want to say thank you for all of that.
Wow, that's flattering, if I would say. The Wiki in Africa team has been trying to have this for weeks, if not months, and the fact that you all actually found time to turn up and be here for this session, I mean, we should be the ones saying thank you. It's not an easy thing, excusing yourself from your campaign strategies and all that to be here to spend over an hour, sitting and answering to these questions being thrown at you. I mean, we are in your debt. Thank you so much. And of course, we look forward to seeing you guys on the flip side, which is on the board seats. I mean, it's going to be amazing to know that these amazing ideas shared today would transcend to being represented on the board. So the pleasure is always ours. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who made it to the meeting. Thank you so much to the community and everyone listening as well.
Thank you. And with me today to share the news update is Noni Ntlakla, who is a colleague at Wiki in Africa. Hello, Noni, are you there?
Hi, Ceslaus. Hi, I'm here.
Thank you for doing this with me. And the first item is to let you know that the Wiki Loves Women Inspiring Open podcast has released the episode 9, 10, and 11 with Helen Tovey, Lola Shonein, and Nana Ama Asante, respectively. Please listen to the episodes.
And our second point is that Wikimania 2022, our global Wikimedia conference, will take place between the 11th and the 14th of August. Registration is now open for Wikimania 2022. Please do register.
Wikimania 2022 Hackathon holds from August 12th to 14th. If you have any accessibility or translation requests, please contact hlep@wikimedia.org.
The African Wikimedia Developers Project has adopted African Wikimedia Technical Community as their new name. New members are encouraged to sign up.
Thank you, Nani. And the West Africa Hub research team is conducting research on Initiative 25, regional and thematic hubs in West Africa. And as such, your responses will be of utmost importance to us in conducting the research. Kindly fill the related survey.
The winners for Wiki Loves Folklore 2022 have been announced. Check out the winners on the international campaign page.
The Affiliations Committee has officially recognized Women in Religion Wikimedia User Group as a Wikimedia user group. We welcome them on board.
The Wikimedia Foundation is looking to hire 4 to 11 at-large directors for the Wikimedia Endowment Board. Apply if you're qualified.
And the Wiki Endeavor Steering Committee, WISCOM, has 2 volunteer positions open to Wikimedians in Africa and people in diaspora. Deadline is 5th August, which is today.
African Library and Information Associations and Institutions is looking for French-speaking facilitator for Wikidata course. Apply before 11 GMT on the 29th of August, 2022.
The Carnegie Hall Rose Archives, a department within the nonprofit organization Carnegie Hall Corporation, is seeking proposals from qualified cultural heritage data management consultants to review and evaluate their current methods and approach to managing information, and also to assess the technology and improve the process that support their mission of preserving and making their information accessible. Please apply if you're qualified.
Code for Africa is offering stipend-based fellowships to 4 African Wikipedians in residence to tackle climate change issues such as climate denialism or delayism and related myths and disinformation. Apply if you're based in Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, or South Africa. The deadline is today, 5th of August, 2022.
And the Wikiloves Monument International team is looking for a communications volunteer. If you are interested, please reach out to WLM-global-org at lists.wmnederland.nl.
Call for community events for Wikidata's 10 years anniversary in October 2022 is open. Contact the organizers if you're interested in organizing a local event.
2Hub project team wants your feedback on 2Hub taxonomy. 2Hub is a catalog of over 1,500 tools used by a wide range of Wikimedia contributors, editors, developers, patrollers, researchers, admins, and many more. Deadline for feedback is 21st of August.
Conversation Hour with Maggie Dennis, Vice President, Community Resilience and Sustainability, is on August 18 at 1300 UTC. Save the date.
And lastly, the Inuka team and the Wiki Stories pilot project team are delighted to announce the launch of the first version of the Wiki Stories 2. Wiki Stories is a new tool used to create visual format content that combines images and short text from Wikimedia Commons and Wikipedia. Please check out the tool and provide feedback on Wiki Stories talk page. And you can find all the news items on the WikiAfrica Hour newsroom on Meta. And the action points, if you need to fill a form or contact any email, are also there too. Thank you so much, Noni, for
Thank you
your
so
time.
much, Neslas. Thank you.
Pleasure. And to close, the last Wikimedia Foundation Board election had winners who made it to the board and others who didn't get elected. Seeing and discussing with these top 6 candidates today has resounded nothing short of resilience, boldness, and determination to ensure we as a community get to have the Wikimedia Foundation Board that has our best interests at heart. Not even the results of the last board election could discourage them from putting their names up to the contest. We wish them the very best and their respective quests towards ensuring we have a Wikimedia Foundation Board of our dreams. On behalf of the Wiki in Africa team, I say a big thank you to you, Tobechukwu Precious Friday, Farah Jack Mustaklem, Shani Evenstein Sigalov, Kunal Mehta, Michał Buczyński, and Mike Peel for finding time within your very busy schedule and perhaps within your campaign strategy time to have honored our invitation. I also say a very big thank you to our audience who have made our time to join us on the session. I'm your host, Ceslos Obonaya, and I wish you a happy weekend. See you next time.
This episode of WikiAfrica Hour was hosted by Ceslos Obonaya. Let us know what topics you want to discuss and join us next month on the same channels. Subscribe to the Wiki in Africa YouTube channel and follow WikiAfrica on social media.